Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the franchise. This is episode number 3. Um, this podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Um, whether you're watching or listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, this is episode number 3. Last episode was about a week ago, I'd say, or less than a week ago, like 5 days ago. In that episode, we went over every single NFL Week 1 game, went over who I think was going to win every single game, as well as NFL standings predictions for every single division. And I also talked some college football week number 1, the Donovan Mitchell trade, and also some things going on in Major League Baseball. So if you haven't checked out that episode or any of what I just listed from that episode interests you, please go check it out once again on YouTube, Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts. This episode, just a quick rundown. We're going to go over NFL Week 1. We're going to recap every single game. Some of the games I'm going to talk about more than others just because, I can't watch every single game. Um, I wish I could, especially since I don't have NFL Red Zone or Sunday Ticket. I can only watch the 2 games on Fox and CBS that I get. Um, but anyways, we'll go over every single game, whether it's a quick recap or a nice little detailed conversation. We're going to go through every single game from this past weekend, as well as college football week 2. I'm going to go recap some of those games, including the Alabama-Texas game. I'm also going to give my week 2 top 10 for college football. I'm also going to give power rankings for the NFL as well, debating on whether it's going to be top 10 or every single team. Um, Anyways, we're going to do that. And then we're also going to go over some things happening in Major League Baseball. This regular season is coming to a close, but that doesn't mean there's still a lot of incredible things happening. And that's where we're going to start today's episode. Aaron Judge is at 57 home runs on his 2022 season. Like I said in last episode, if you missed that, I was making, the debate of recent weeks has been Shohei or Ohtani or Aaron Judge for MVP. And it is a very valid, tough argument. Shohei Ohtani's having a better season this year than he did last year, and last year he won MVP. Um, but what Aaron Judge is doing is absolutely incredible this season. Offensively, the man has 57 home runs. The American League record is 61. There's still like 20 something games that need to be played. So, you look at the odds and you look at Aaron Judge's homers per at bats, he's going to break the record. At least he's on pace to do so. Um, I mean, like I said, Aaron Judge is my vote for MVP. I am ignoring the fact that I'm wearing a Tampa Bay Rays hat. Um, um, I love Shohei Ohtani as an Angels fan. I think any other season he's the MVP. He's going to finish second in MVP. But Aaron Judge leads baseball in so many categories. Not only that, I mean, it was I was having a conversation with a buddy earlier today. Aaron Judge is almost in the Triple Crown conversation. He's hitting like 310. The leader in the American League is hitting 319. He's leading the league in home runs and he's leading the league in RBIs. If he passes up and gets the number 1 batting average, Triple Crown home run record, probably one of the greatest seasons in the last 10 years. Um, Aaron Judge is just playing incredible. Another guy who's chasing a record is Albert Pujols, who's 3 home runs away from 700 on his career. He just passed Alex Rodriguez for 4th all time on the home run list the other night. He was tied with A-Rod for 696 career home runs. Now passed him at 697. There's still, like I said, like 20 games left in the season. Albert Pujols is most likely going to hit 700 career home runs. The Cardinals are going to give him all of the ABs because everyone wants to see him hit 700. He's actually playing really good. I mean, his stats against left-handed pitching is incredible. And, it's not like he's a guy that, even though he's 40, 42, I think he's 42, even though he's, in his 40s and hasn't been the best player in a while, he's still not, guaranteed out. He's still a good productive player, and this season he's proven to do that with 18 home runs on the year. Um, yeah, I mean, Albert Pujols chasing 700 is incredible. He'd be one of only 4 players to ever hit 700 home runs, and those are players that include Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and Hank Aaron, 3 of the greatest players of all time. I'm just really glad he passed up Alex Rodriguez. I don't know if I've ever voiced my opinion on Alex Rodriguez, but he's the only player to ever play baseball that I genuinely hate. Like I hate the guy as a player and I think as a person he kind of sucks too. Um, but yeah, I'm glad he was able to pass up Alex Rodriguez in that department. And then a few more things going on in baseball. Mike Trout had a 7 home run game streak. He hit 7 home runs in 7 straight, or not 7 home runs. He hit a home run in 7 straight games. Um, he was very, very close to tying the all-time record of 8. Unfortunately, in that game, the Cleveland Guardians decided to pitch around Mike Trout and not let him even get any pitches remotely to the strike zone. So that's always fun to see, because can't be the team that gives up a home run to Mike Trout. It can't be the team that all of this. But Mike Trout's incredible. You look at I'm actually gonna pull it up here. Um, but MLB, they posted something on Instagram, and it is home run leaderboard. Aaron Judge leading the all of baseball with 57 home runs. And then he has a 20 home run lead over the next guy. Kyle Schwarber has 37. Austin Riley has 36. Goldschmidt and Trout both have 35. This is another thing I want to add about Mike Trout. Mike Trout has 35 home runs, and he missed all of July and a little bit into August with an injury on his to his back, and he already has 35 home runs. If you think, um, if he didn't get injured, I think he would have 50 home runs. I think him and Judge would be racing for the home run record. Mike Trout is having a power season. He's never been a power hitter, and now he's just um, hitting the absolute crap out of the baseball and going yard like every single game. And he just did 7 straight games of home runs. And then finally, the Dodgers just clinched the National League West division title for the 9th time in the last 10 years. The only exception being last year's the Giants. And this Dodgers team is incredible. They have 98 wins. There's still 20 games left to be played in the season, roughly. And they have 98 wins. I think this Dodgers team is going to end up winning the most games in MLB history, held by the Mariners, I think at 116. It's either 114 or 116. I believe it's 116. Um, yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are this is one of the best baseball teams, regular season teams to ever like exist. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Dodgers break the regular season wins record, especially with this many games left and them already almost at 100. Um, yeah, so that's it for really going on in baseball. The playoffs are coming up. Um, we are, award races, wild card races, but we're gonna save those once we get closer to the end of the season. We'll have a nice little playoff thing going on. But let's get to, the big part of the episode. It's pretty much going to be the entire podcast is going to be in this NFL and college football recap. We're going to start it off with the college football side of things here. Friggin' printed this giant packet. It's like 7 pages of notes. So the college football is all the way in the back. Beginning with the game of the week, this was the most highly anticipated game. And I watched this entire game. I woke up at 9 o'clock p.m. or a.m., whatever, a.m., not p.m. I would have missed the freaking game. 9 a.m. on this Saturday, or this past Saturday. For some reason, I thought the game started at 10, and I woke up and the game already started, and I was like, oh, crap, dude, I'm about to miss the game. But yeah, I watched the entire Alabama-Texas football game. Alabama, last-minute win. Alabama won 20-19 over Texas, the number 1 team in the country, facing an unranked Texas team. You look at the game stats, box score. Bryce Young from Alabama went 27 of 39 passing with 213 yards and 1 touchdown. Quinn Ewers, the transfer quarterback from Ohio State, He went 7 of 12 for 134 yards. However, he exited the game early after getting sacked. Um, Landed on his elbow, his non-throwing elbow. He's out for multiple weeks with an elbow injury. Um, and then the backup quarterback came in. Hudson Card went 14 of 22 with 158 yards. And this dude got beat up like by the second quarter. As soon as they put him in the game, not many plays later, he started limping, and he was basically limping for the rest of the game. It really hurt Texas. He wasn't as mobile as he'd like to be, as he was able to be. Um, but for Quinn Ewers, I mean, before that guy got hurt, he was balling out. He was making incredible throws. There were some throws that I saw, um, especially this one in the end zone. He was at they were at like the 30-yard line. He threw one out into the straight back of the end zone, and the receiver, he caught the ball for a second, got 2 feet in, um, and then he just dropped it. He never maintained possession. That would have been a touchdown for him. He really, really played amazing in this game. Um, he was one of the only few 100 grade recruits coming out of high school. Remember, he's supposed to be a freshman this year. However, he reclassified last year, skipped a senior year of high school, and went straight to Ohio State. But Ohio State has a quarterback already in C.J. Stroud. So Quinn Ewers transferred. He comes here to Texas, and the question, the big question mark is this guy going to live up to the 100 grade prospect rating that he got? In this game, he really showed that. I think if he did play a whole game, if he played the entire game against this Alabama team, I think you could be saying that Texas beat Alabama in this game. And they still almost did that. You look for Alabama; they had 15 penalties in the entire game. Will Anderson, one of the top prospects on the Alabama defense. Um, I mean, this guy is a very mature player, but he made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of false start and offside penalties, as well as some unnecessary roughness calls on sportsmanlike conduct, stuff like that at the end of plays, pushing guys when the play's over, just making some bonehead decisions for a guy that's supposed to be the leader of that defense. Um, the Texas defense, though, Texas played great in that game. They had 2 sacks on the day, and they were really shutting down Alabama until that final drive of the game, which we'll get to. And then the Alabama receivers, this is a big note. They really struggled against Texas in this game. They could not get open for Bryce Young really the entire game until that last drive, and until the fourth quarter, I'd say. For the first 3 quarters, it was just, can these guys get open for Bryce Young? Because he is just, he's trying to do all he can, but it wasn't working out until, like I said, that fourth quarter, and especially that last drive. Um, and Bryce Young really flipped a switch in really the last 2 drives for Alabama. I mean, he just put the team on his back, uh, and won them that game. Want to pull up the last. Geez, where is the? I can't find the play-by-play for the fourth quarter, but I mean, Bryce Young played amazing, especially in that last drive. Um, but although Alabama won this game, they only won by 1 point, and they didn't look great for I'd say the entirety of the game. The big question is Alabama a true contender? They've been such a great football team, great program for many, many years. But are they a real contender this year? The receivers have a lot of questions. You look at Bryce Young, he's obviously one of the best quarterbacks in college football, going to be a first round pick in this upcoming draft. Um, the defense, they didn't play their best football, against a Texas team. Um, and you'll find out in my rankings, where Alabama landed last week. They were number 1. Whether or not they stay there, we'll find out. Going around college football, though, besides in these other games, I gotta pull up the scores here. Number 3, Ohio State beat Arkansas State 45-12. Some of these other games, there were some 2 like massive upsets this past weekend. One of them being number 8 Notre Dame, going 0-2 to start the season as they lost to Marshall. I don't even know where this school is, but I couldn't even tell you. They lost 26-21 to Marshall, and then you also have Texas A&M, the number 6 team in the country, losing to Appalachian State. They lost 17-14 as well. I mean, that was a horrible, horrible loss. You can't be. That really just takes them out of the conversation of teams that are going to make the college football playoff, and I don't think they're ever going to recover from that this season. And then Kentucky, number 20 ranked Kentucky beat number 12 Florida. Remember, first week of the season, unranked Florida team goes in and smacks uh, Utah, ranked Utah team. I believe they were ranked number 7 in the country at the time. Florida jumps up to 12, and then they get smacked in the math by number 20 Kentucky. They lose 26-16. And then Kentucky, they jump in. You'll see where I have them ranked in my uh, power rankings. And then you look at USC 2-0 on the season, number 10 USC at the time. Caleb Williams went 20 of 27, 341 yards and 4 touchdowns. Um, I mean, this USC team is just very, very good. They had 5 sacks on the day as well as 2 interceptions. People are saying there's questions on the USC defense. I don't think so. I think they've shown that they're a pretty darn good unit so far this season. And then Nebraska fired their head coach Scott Frost. He had a record of 16-31 in 4 seasons at Nebraska. They never had a winning season after coming over from a UCF team that went 12-0. So now it's time for my top 10 rankings heading into the 3rd week of college football. And let me pull them up here. And let me say there's some drastic changes coming up. So I'm going to pull up my top 10 coming into this week, and I'm going to pull up my top 10 from last weekend. Last week, you look at the top 10, I had number 1 Alabama, followed by Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson, all top 4 teams. Michigan, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, USC, and Baylor. Coming in, week 3, college football, top 10, number 1 team in the country is Georgia. Georgia, reigning national champions. And wow, this team is incredible. Defensively, they're the best defense in college football, even though they lost like all of their guys in the NFL draft. And offensively, Stetson Bennett is a legit quarterback. I feel like if this guy continues to play the way he is, he could be a first, second round quarterback in this upcoming draft. Georgia, number 1 team in the country, followed by number 2, Ohio State. I feel like those are the 2 really real top dogs right now in college football. Ohio State at number 2 and number 3, I have Alabama. I have them dropping 2 spots from number 1 to number 3 this week. I don't really think Alabama's a true title contender this season. Number 4, I have Michigan. They're jumping up 2 spots from 6 to 4. They found a real quarterback. The first game of the season, they started. Dude, see, that's bad preparation by myself. I should have had that written down. The first week of the season, they started. Geez, how do I say this guy's name? Cade McNamara. And then this past week, they started J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy's the guy. He's going to change this Michigan offense and make them a true legitimate contender. And then I have at number 6 in this rankings, I have USC jumping up from the number 9 spot to the number 6 spot. I think they're from number 9 to number 5. I think USC is a legit contender as well, but I'll wait to really say that. I feel like this next week is a week where you could put USC in the top 4 if they win this game. Number 6, I have Clemson. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 8, Oklahoma State. 2 of the Oklahoma programs in the top 10. And then, wow. Number 9, I have University of Kentucky. Kentucky is playing insane this season. And then number 10, I have Michigan State. So those are my top 10 heading into week 3. You have a lot of changes going on, especially with these losses to Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and then a very narrow win by Alabama. And that is the top 10 heading into week number 3. And that's going to wrap it up for this section for the college football. this season, this weekend. I guess we can look at some of the games that are happening this weekend. I'm not really sure what we got this weekend in college football. Let's see if we got any good games here. We got number 12 BYU taking on 25 Oregon. Oregon jumps back into the top 25. Um, any other ranked games? 13 Miami taking on 24 Texas A&M. USC plays Fresno State. That'll probably be a win. Alabama, who do they play? They play against UL Monroe. Couldn't tell you. Yeah, so that's going to be, it's going to wrap it up for the college football portion. Uh, let's move on though. Let's move on to the big boys, the top dogs of the National Football League Week 1 recap. Um, let's see how I did in my NFL picks. I actually submitted the exact same picks I picked on this podcast into this pick'em league that I do with some family members of mine, and see if I can look at last week's picks. I got 11 of the 15 picks right. That's just what I do. I am that guy, and we're gonna go through every single game here, though, and we're gonna recap and talk about some of them. So, beginning with the first game of the NFL season, we had the Bills going to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Bills ended up winning this game 31-10. Josh Allen went 26 of 31 with 297 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. On the other side, Matthew Stafford went 29 of 41, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Running wise, for the running game for the Rams, the big standout here is Cam Akers. He had 3 carries, rushed for a grand total of 0 yards. Cam Akers was just like incredibly bad this week. Josh Allen had 1 rushing touchdown. For the Bills, receiving wise, Stephon Diggs 8 receptions, 122 yards and a touchdown. Gabe Davis 4 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. Isaiah McKenzie also had a touchdown. For the Rams, Cooper Kupp was the star of the offense. He had 13 receptions, 128 yards, and 1 touchdown. On the defensive side of things, Bobby Wagner had a sack in his Rams debut. But the story is this Bills defense. Von Miller had 2 sacks. Greg Rousseau had a sack. Jordan Phillips had 1.5 sacks. 7 total sacks for the Bills defense to go along with 3 interceptions. The Bills played incredible. Defensively, they did exactly what you need to do to stop this Rams team. Yes, Cooper Kupp still went off and had a great, amazing game, but Matthew Stafford, he did not play his best football. 3 interceptions, allowing the Bills to put themselves in this game and really close it out. Allen Robinson's a big question too on this Rams roster. The guy had 2 receptions. He did play like every single snap. And that's been a big thing that people are saying, at least in the fantasy world. At least he played 66 out of 68 snaps or whatever he played. But he's just not getting targeted. Why? Like Cooper Kupp's the main target on this team. He's the wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, the Bills looked great. The Bills are number 1 in my power rankings. The Rams, I don't think they're dead in the water. I don't think they're going to struggle this bad throughout the season. I just think, the Bills came in and executed their game plan perfectly, especially defensively. The Bills are going to have one of the best defense, probably top 5 in football to end the season. Moving on to the Sunday slate of NFL games, beginning here with the Saints beating the Falcons last minute. Saints won 27-26. The Saints scored 17 points in the 4th quarter. And I watched some of that tape from this game, and the Saints, to be honest, they didn't look incredible until that 4th quarter. The Falcons looked nice. Marcus Mariota was slinging the ball. Winston went 23 of 34, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 picks. You look at Marcus Mariota, he went 20 of 33, 215, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He had a rushing touchdown. Cordell Patterson had a nice day, 22 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Taysom Hill, the Swiss Army knife, for the Saints. He had 4 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Seems like every single time Taysom Hill, you know, does the wildcat or goes in under center, they just snap the ball and he gets like 20 yards per carry. He had a great game. Alvin Kamara didn't have his best game, 9 carries for 39 yards. Um, and then this receiving, the Saints, Landry had 7 receptions for 114 yards, and Michael Thomas in his first game in like a year and a half, he had 5 receptions, 57 yards, and 2 clutch fourth quarter touchdowns. Kyle Pitts struggled, 2 receptions for 19 yards, and Drake London looked nice with 5 receptions and 74 yards. Um, the Falcons defense had 4 sacks. They looked great. But ultimately it was a uh, the Falcons just choked the game. I mean, they went in with a 17 point lead in the game, and they defensively just choked it. Offensively, they couldn't put some more points on the board. And then they tried to win the game on a 63-yard field goal, but it ultimately got blocked. So, you know, the Falcons look nice, but I still think they're one of the worst teams in football. And for the Saints, this is a nice little comeback win for a team that didn't look great offensively for a majority of the game until that fourth quarter. It's a big win for them and a great performance by Michael Thomas. Moving on, 49ers lost to the Bears 10-19. This game was literally played in a swimming pool, a swamp, whatever you want to call it. The field was a mess. They had to use squeegees on the field because there was so much water everywhere. Um, but you look at the box score. Trey Lance didn't look that great. He went 13 of 28, 164 yards and an interception. No touchdowns for him. Justin Fields didn't look that great either. He only had 8 completed passes of 17 attempts, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Trey Lance had 54 yards rushing. Debo 52. Elijah Mitchell 41 yards on 6 carries. He ended up getting injured. He's going to be out for week 2. He's supposed to be their RB1, but you look here and Justin Wilson Jr. had 9 carries, so he got more attempts. They don't really have like I wouldn't say they have a legit or like they don't have a guy that's their RB1. Because Debo's getting the ball and Trey Lance is always running these read options, and Wilson's getting the ball and Mitchell's getting the ball when he's healthy. Both of these teams had 2 sacks and 1 interception on their defensive side of things. This was just a game that ultimately, the Niners, they lost the game themselves. The Bears didn't really go out and blow away the Niners. The Niners just kind of offensively struggled. Trey Lance couldn't find a groove. And I guess it's hard, when it's pouring rain and you're playing in a swamp. But Justin Fields found a way to get it done. He had a nice wide open touchdown passes to some guys. Ultimately, though, this game you could wash it down the drain, in my opinion, for the Niners. The Bears are going to win, probably their only win on the season. Moving on, Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. Joe Burrow had a very, very bad game. He had 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Ended the day 33 of 53 with 338 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he ended up playing better, but he had 4 interceptions, 1 pick six, one of those being a pick six. Mitchell Trubisky played a Mitchell Trubisky game. All right, 194 yards and a touchdown. Joe Mixon got 27 carries for 82 yards, and Najee Harris had 10 carries, 23 yards. He ended up getting hurt. He's questionable for week 2 with a foot injury. Jamar Chase balled out, 129 yards and a touchdown. But the big story of this game was 2 things for me. It's the Steelers' defense and the Bengals' O-line. The Bengals had a very bad offensive line last season in a year that they made it to the Super Bowl. And it was said that they had a revamped offensive line in the offseason. It didn't show at all in week 1. Now, most of these guys didn't play in the preseason together, but they still practiced all training camp, all offseason, the whole week leading up. So I don't know if these guys just, had a really bad game on Sunday. And it was just a fluke, or if the Bengals have another offensive line problem, because 7 sacks, dude, 7 sacks is a lot. You're not giving, uh, you're not allowing Joe Burrow to be put in a position of success, um, especially against, like I said, this Steelers defense is incredible. T.J. Watt had a very, very nice day. He ended up, though, he has a torn pec muscle, and he's going to be out for many weeks. So that's a big blow to this defense. But Minka Fitzpatrick, pick six. Look around at this defensive unit. Uh, the Steelers played good defensively, offensively. Mitchell Trubisky is doing the bare minimum. That's what Mitchell Trubisky does, and that's what he's doing so far. Um, the Bengals almost came back if it wasn't for a missed field goal, a missed extra point. Um, maybe this game ends up in a tie or a Bengals W. But Joe Burrow definitely struggled in his first game on the season. Moving on, the Eagles beat the Lions 38-35 in Detroit. Jalen Hurts had a nice day, 243 yards passing. There was no passing touchdowns in this game. All of the touchdowns for the Eagles, from the film I watched, they were all rushing touchdowns, and they all also came basically in like inside the 15. They were in the red zone on every single touchdown. Hurts had a rushing touchdown. Sanders had a rushing touchdown. For the Lions, Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns and a pick. DeAndre Swift played amazing. There's some people in this world that say DeAndre Swift is not a guy. He's not a dog. He doesn't want it. He's soft. That's what some people were saying. I didn't say that. But I know some people that said that, and those people know who they are. But DeAndre Swift came out and he balled out. 15 carries, 144 yards, and a tutty. Javonte Williams had 2 touchdowns, both of those in the red zone. Excuse me. AJ Brown had a nice day as well. Devontae Smith struggled. He had 4 targets for 0 receptions and 0 yards. Don't really know what's going on there. One of the passes I saw, Devontae Smith is running, and the corners, like the corner and Devontae Smith, they're running, and the ball just gets thrown and it just hits him in the back. So whose fault that is? I guess it's both of the quarterback and Devontae Smith. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a nice day as well with a touchdown, and DJ Chark had a nice little last-minute touchdown as the Lions barely lose in this game to the Eagles. And the Lions looked impressive. I think the Lions are going to be a team that's going to fight till the end. It's kind of what they're built on. That's kind of what Dan Campbell's message is as a head coach. I think this team will win a few games. I think they'll probably end up winning like 5 or 6 games on the season. And I think they're going to have a lot of games where they lose very, very close. But yeah, let's move on here. Patriots lose to the Dolphins 7-20. What a nice performance for Miami. Defensively, they didn't have to do a whole lot, right? They had 2 sacks and a pick. And the Patriots had 3 sacks, but Tyreek Hill had a nice day. He had 94 yards. Jalen Waddle had 69 yards and a tutty. Dude, let me just say, I don't know how I never knew this, but when Jalen Waddle scores a touchdown, everyone starts doing a little waddle, dude. It's the dopest thing ever. They start waddling around like a penguin. That's freaking sick. That is so dope. It's one of the best celebrations I've ever seen. But for the Patriots, I mean, their offense looked boring, dead, and stagnant. They just don't look like a fun team. Bill Belichick didn't name coordinators to begin the season. Is this going to be the result of not having coordinators, not having play callers? I guess we'll find out. Just the Patriots, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, you look at their receivers, they have no good receivers. They have no receiver 1. They have no receiver 2. They just have a bunch of wide receiver 3s filling that void. They don't really have a run game. And defensively, they have some guys, right? But I just don't think I have the Patriots finishing 3rd in the division, if you didn't know. And I just, I think the best days of the Patriots are behind them, at least for the time being. Moving on, the Ravens beat the Jets 24-9. The Jets suck. I mean, there's not much to say there. Joe Flacco threw the ball 59 times. He had 307 yards um, with a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Sauce Gardner for the Jets is very good. I think he only allowed like 8 yards receiving against him. He had a nice breakup on Mark Andrews. Uh, Lamar really balled out though. 3 tutties, 213 yards and a pick. Rashad Bateman, 59 yards and a touchdown. This guy's the newest member of my fantasy team. I just traded away Allen Robinson for him. I think the trade happened because people think there's a lot of upside on Allen Robinson. But to be honest with you, I thought there was too. That's why I drafted him. After week one, I think he's just not gonna be that good, and he wasn't even good last year. Um, anyways, though, Rashad Bateman played nice. Lamar played amazing, and the Jets suck a lot. This was an incredible game. This was a nice game here. Carson Wentz debut against the Jaguars. They ended up winning. The Commanders ended up winning 28-22. Trevor Lawrence had 275 yards. Carson Wentz 313 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Carson Wentz is a roller coaster. This guy started off the game incredibly hot. He went boom, and then he threw those 2 picks back to back. By the way, on back to back drives. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, Carson Wentz has a love-hate relationship. A lot of people have that with him. Um, I mean, he did end up performing very, very well. The Jaguars were coming back. They stayed in the game the whole time. James Robinson played very good. Terry McLaurin didn't really get involved in the game. He's on one of my fantasy teams, and I was just staring at his stats, and I was like, Carson, can you throw him the freaking ball? Terry McLaurin is one of the best receivers in the game, and he only had like one reception, like 4 targets. He ended up on the day with 58 yards and a tutty. Curtis Samuel had a touchdown and 55 yards. Jaheim Dotson 40 yards and 2 touchdowns um, for the Commanders, and Christian Kirk had 117 yards for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I mean this game is just one of those Carson Wentz games where he's gonna be really good, really bad, good, and then clutch. That's kind of what Carson Wentz does throughout the season. He showed it in the first game of the season. So it's going to be a wild ride for the Commanders this season. I picked the Jaguars to win this game. I don't think they looked that bad. Offensively, defensively, might be a different question. Moving on here, the Cleveland Browns beat the Panthers 26-24. Um, Baker Mayfield had a nice little game, 235, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Christian McCaffrey, 33 yards rushing with a touchdown. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt split time together. Chubb had 141 yards rushing. Kareem Hunt had 46 and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt also had a touchdown receiving. And Robbie Anderson had a very nice day for the Panthers, 102 yards and a touchdown. The Browns had 4 sacks on defense. The Browns' defense is legit. Um, I think they're going to finish top 5 defensively this season. For the Panthers, they have all of the offensive pieces to be one of the best offenses in the league, like a top 15, top 10 offense, with guys like Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, and DJ Moore. It's just going to come down to Baker Mayfield's play at the quarterback position. They didn't play that bad, just one of those field goals at the end to give the Browns the win here. Moving on. We had a tie this weekend, bro. We had a freaking tie. The Texans led most of this game against the Colts. They ended up tying at 20 apiece. Matt Ryan, 50 passing attempts, completed 32 of them, 352 yards, tutty, and a pick. Davis Mills, 23 for 37, 240, and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, widely regarded as the best running back in football, 31 carries, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr. had a nice little game, 121 yards and a touchdown. O.J. Howard for the Texans had 2 touchdowns. The Texans are bad. I mean, yeah, they almost won this game. They had control for a majority of the game. But defensively, the Texans suck. They don't have anything on that side of the ball. The Colts didn't play good for most of the game. Matt Ryan was playing great. They just couldn't capitalize when it came down to it. They weren't able to score many points for like a majority of the game until that fourth quarter. They ended up tying at the end here, and then they cut Rodrigo Blankenship, their kicker. Ended up missing like a few game-winning field goals. I don't think he missed any extra points, but um, at the end of the day, a lot of kickers actually missed kicks this weekend. But at the end of the day, they both tie. Take it as a win or a dub at the end of the day for these two teams. Moving on, the New York Giants beat the Titans 21-20 on a last-second missed field goal by Tennessee. Saquon Barkley had a very, very nice game. 18 carries, 164, and a touchdown. Derrick Henry struggled. 21 carries for 82 yards. He wasn't, a factor in this game at all. The Titans had 5 sacks and a pick. Um, a lot of people in this big time media want to say that the Giant, this is some of the stuff. It's the first week of football, and that Monday after the first Sunday of football is the biggest overreaction to everything there is. People are saying the Giants, are the Giants back? Did Brian Dable, the new head coach for the Giants, did he bring them back to being a legit team? I don't think so. I think, you're going to win some games. You're going to play your cards right, and some things are going to fall into place, like a missed kick, missed field goal to win the game. Ultimately, Titans are probably a better football team at the end of the season than the Giants. Moving on, Packers lose 7-23 to the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers had a horrible game, finishing 22 for 34 with 1 interception. I didn't write down how many yards he had, so my bad. Kirk Cousins played great in this first head coaching debut for Kevin O'Connell. He had an amazing offensive game. This entire team offensively played amazing for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson is the fantasy player of the week for me. He's not on any of my teams, but he is the franchise player of the week. If I was to give an award out, he had 9 receptions, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's probably the second best receiver in the game behind Devontae Adams. I mean, this guy is incredible. The way he's just able to get open every single play is incredible. Um, Also, Dalvin Cook played all right. He had 20 carries and 90 yards. The Packers offense just looked really bad. The receivers dropped some balls. Um, Defensively, the Vikings are legit. I think they're going to finish, like I said, I mean, I've said this for a few teams. I think they're going to end up finishing top 5 in defense. They have Harrison Smith at safety. They got some nice linebackers and some nice guys coming off the edge. Um, and this is a big game. These two teams are going to finish top 2 in their division. And the Vikings take the first out of 2 meetings. So that's a big game. Moving on, you got the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Cardinals 44-21. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the world, best quarterback in the planet. He only had 9 incompletions on the day, finishing 30 of 39, 360 yards, and he also had a casual 5 touchdowns on the day. Travis Kelce played amazing. He's Patrick Mahomes' #1 target. And when I was writing down these numbers, receiving wise, and who Mahomes targeted, I think it's going to take a few weeks to figure out who Mahomes' #1 receiver is. Well, obviously his #1 receiver is Travis Kelce, right? But who's that guy that's not Kelce? Who's it going to be? Juju had a day where he had 6 receptions, 79 yards. Marquez Scandling had 4 receptions for 44 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 32 yards. And McCole Hardman only had 3 receptions and a touchdown. So I think it's going to take a few weeks to really figure out who Patrick Mahomes is going to target the second most next to Travis Kelce. But it also may end up being where it's very, very spread out. There's a lot of targets that are freed up with Tyreek Hill not being there, and either someone's going to take all of those targets, or or Patrick Mahomes is gonna spread them out evenly around his receivers. Looking at the Cardinals, I don't think they play bad. People are saying the Cardinals didn't play their best football. They obviously didn't play their best football. Their best football is a win, right? They didn't play bad either. I mean, they're playing the best team in the NFL, one of the top three teams in football, the best quarterback in football, the best tight end in football. You're playing a really really tough opponent. You put up 21 points. Not your best day, but I feel like the better days are ahead, and you're playing a very tough opponent week one. Um, Moving on here, you have the Raiders losing to the Chargers 19-24. This is another tough day for in the quarterback department around the NFL. Derek Carr had 3 interceptions on the day, finishing with 295 yards and 2 touchdowns. Justin Herbert played nice, 26-34 with 279 and 3 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, I'm a Raiders fan. For those that don't know, Devontae Adams, I am so freaking glad I have that guy on our team. He is incredible. 10 receptions, 141 yards and a touchdown. Darren Waller had 79 yards. Um, Really, for the Raiders, they have a good quarterback, running back, tight end, and receiver, and they receiving core, and they have a nice pass rush. But you look at the rest of the team, the O line stinks and the secondary stinks. Um, Keenan Allen left the game with a hamstring. He's out for the Thursday night game against the Chiefs. Gerald Everett had a nice game, 54 yards and a touchdown. Mike Williams struggled, only 2 receptions on the day. Um, Derek Carr also had 2 fumbles. But I think the biggest piece of news from this game, the biggest headline, is this revamped Chargers defense. Khalil Mack had 3 sacks in his first game with the Chargers, 6 total sacks for Los Angeles. Um, that's without J.C. Jackson, their new corner, and they got in the offseason. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I've said this for probably 4 other teams. The Chargers are going to finish at least top 5, maybe top 10 defensively this season. They played incredible. And then the last game from the Sunday slate was the Buccaneers Cowboys. Bucks won 19-3 over the Cowboys. The Cowboys were the only team this weekend to not score a touchdown. And this was because Dak Prescott went out with a thumb injury. He ended up requiring surgery. He's going to be out for possibly 6 weeks. And this is just crazy. I mean, the Cowboys are dead. If you think the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs now, it's over. All right. I mean, even with Prescott in the game, the Cowboys offense just didn't look good. Zeke didn't play good. CeeDee Lamb is supposed to be the number 1 receiver. That's why they got rid of Amari Cooper. He didn't even play his best football. They didn't even score a touchdown. All right. And Dak Prescott played a good amount of the game until he got injured. The Cowboys quarterback going forward is Cooper Rush. At least we think it is. Unless they go out and trade for either Garoppolo or maybe Jordan. Okay. Jordan Love's name hasn't got mentioned as a guy that could be a trade candidate. Why would the Packers not trade him? They have Aaron Rodgers. Someone go out and get Jordan Love, whether that's the Cowboys, I guess we'll find out. Probably not. I think they're going to end up sticking with Cooper Rush for these next few weeks as they wait for Dak to come back. Is their season over? I say yes. I personally, I would just bottom out and draft one of these really good defensive players in the upcoming draft. For the Buccaneers, they played great. Tom Brady had a nice day, as well as Leonard Fournette and Mike Evans. Finally, the last game for week 1 of the NFL season, we had the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle. The Broncos ended up losing by 1 point, 16-17 to Seattle. Russell Wilson had a very, very nice game. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise just because they lost to the Seahawks. He had 304 yards and a touchdown. Geno Smith played pretty good, 195 and 2 touchdowns as well. Rashad Penny played pretty good. And then for the receivers with the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton shared the same amount of receptions. Jerry Jeudy had 102 yards and a touchdown. Sutton 72 yards. Javonte Williams 11 receptions with 64 yards. The Broncos offensively played great. Defensively, They got better towards the end of the game. Um, the Seahawks really, really shined though in their red zone defense. They Russell Wilson fumbled the ball on the at the 1 yard line. They just could not convert in the red zone. The Broncos couldn't because the Seahawks were shutting them down. Ultimately, this game should have been won by the Broncos. It could have been won by the Broncos. They just made a very, very bonehead decision by their first year rookie head coach. And that was they had a minute left on the clock, fourth down, fourth and sixth, I believe. Um, they're at like the 40 yard line, right? Um, and they just let the clock run out. They have three timeouts and they let the clock run down to 20 seconds. First of all, like, why not call a timeout and stop the clock? All right. And then they go out and they let their kicker, McManus, kick a 64-yarder, which would be an NFL record. He misses it by like that much, which, he barely missed it. But at the end of the day, you can't be you have to let Russell Wilson, the quarterback you traded for in the offseason, the quarterback you just extended for $250 million, you have to let that guy go out there on fourth down and try to win you the football game. That's just what has to happen. All right. And you have to call timeout. If you want to run the clock down to 45 seconds, you run the clock down to 45 seconds. Right? Now, yeah, you can't call back-to-back timeouts, but what you can do is, let's say you convert the fourth and sixth, first down, you either spike the ball or you ran out of bounds, right? The clock stops, then you kick the field goal. Then you win the game. I guess this is just what happens with rookie head coaches. They fold under pressure. They don't know what to do. Um, I mean, the timeout was clearly an obvious decision to make, as well as you have to let Russell Wilson go out there and try and win you the game. Even if they don't convert on fourth down, at least you had Russell Wilson go out there and try to win you the football game. But the Seahawks ended up winning. The Seahawks really played this game personally. Uh, they played to beat Russell Wilson, and that's what they did. So probably the only time this season that they'll have sole possession of first place in the NFC West. And I know every Seahawks fan is definitely enjoying that. And they'll enjoy it for the rest of the season and for the rest of their career as they beat Russell Wilson in his first game as a Bronco and his first game back in Seattle, which is incredible scheduling by the NFL. So that is the recap for week number 1 of the NFL season. I'm recording this on Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday, which means we have a Thursday night football game. This one's between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Both of these teams are 1-0. This is the second AFC West divisional game of the season. I feel like every single one of these games between these AFC West teams could go either way. If I was to pick, the odds right now, let's see here. The odds are Kansas City -4, 54% of ESPN's Football Power Index has the Chiefs winning 54%. Let's see who's out for this game. Keenan Allen and J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson's questionable. And the Chiefs are going to be without their kicker, Harrison Butker. I don't know how big of a deal that's going to end up being because they have Justin Reed, who's a safety who can kick absolute bombs. If I was to pick this game, though, who I think is going to end up coming out with a W, I think it's the Chiefs. I said it earlier when I was talking about Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes just threw for 5 tutties. He's the best quarterback in the league. And yes, I think the Chargers defense is going to be incredible. I don't think this is going to be I would love for this game to be a 42-45 win or something really high scoring. I think this is going to end up being more of a 17-14, 17, a really low scoring game that shines on defense. The Chiefs don't have the best defense, right? But the Chargers do. I think that Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium, that atmosphere, I think ultimately the Chiefs are going to come out with a W, and we're going to lock that pick in tonight, and that's going to be the first game of week 2 of the season. We'll pick the rest of the games in the next episode, which will be recorded on Friday, probably on Saturday. We'll go through every single game like we did on the last episode. We'll pick all those games. Probably have some new other people on the podcast, hopefully. Let's see if there's anything else real quick we want to touch on. Um, I guess if I was to give my power rankings, paper here. Power rankings. See, I do have an issue with the way power rankings are done by like ESPN and NFL.com and stuff like that. Is they base their power rankings for the season based off of their week preseason power rankings, right? Before the season starts, they power rank every single team. And then based off of the week one is how they rank the rest, right? So I think ESPN has the Rams as like the fifth best team in the power rankings, but that's not how I'm doing it, right? I'm doing it based off of week one. How did you play in week one? All right. These are my top 10 power rankings heading into after week one, heading into week number two. Number one team in football, I have the Buffalo Bills. They played incredible, as I mentioned earlier on in the episode. Number two, I have the Chiefs. For all the reasons I've mentioned about Patrick Mahomes. Number three, I have the Chargers. Offensively and defensively, this is going to be they're going to be top 10 in both sides of the ball this season. The four, I have the Buccaneers. They shine. Tom Brady at 45 is still one of the best players ever, and one of the best quarterbacks in the league today. Five, I have the Ravens. Yes, they played the Jets, but Lamar Jackson looked incredible. And defensively, whether or not the Jets offense sucks or the Ravens defense is good, I guess it's a little bit of both. Number six, I have the Eagles. Yes, the Lions did score 35 points on the Eagles, but offensively, this team is very, very talented, and they still have a lot of pieces on defense to be a good team going forward. Number seven, I have the Vikings with a big, big win, over the Packers. Defensively, they're going to be a great team. Offensively, with a new offensive-minded head coach and the second best receiver in football, Vikings will be pretty solid this year. Number eight, I have the Dolphins with a nice week one win over the Patriots. They look to be a fun, exciting team going forward. Number nine, I have the Rams. Although they lost, I think they're going to be good for the rest of the season. I still think they're going to end up winning that division. And they have the shoot. See, I've been saying Justin Jefferson is number two receiver in football because Devontae Adams number one. But then where the heck does that put Cooper Kupp? Cooper Kupp, top three receiver in the game. I guess you could put him 1, 2, or 3. I can't believe I forgot about Cooper Kupp. The Rams are going to be just fine. And then number 10, I have the Raiders. Although Derek Carr struggled, Devontae Adams played amazing. Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs played great. And then I still think there's opportunity for the defense to get better, especially the pass rush. And you just got to hope that the offensive line can give Derek Carr 3 seconds to throw the football. They can at least help him, But those are the top 10. Those are my power rankings, at least the top 10. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We just went over every single game and recapped them all. I guess that's really how the schedule is going to go for these podcasts, for these episodes throughout the football season. It's going to be this one's coming out on a Thursday, right? But the goal is to have one done. So it's going to be all right. I mean, frick, I don't know how to explain this. So it's going to be, we're going to have an episode recapping and an episode previewing for football twice a week, probably on Mondays and Fridays. We're going to have a recap on Monday, preview on Friday. But yeah, baseball's coming up. Baseball postseason's coming soon. NBA season starts in, I believe, a month. College football is still going strong, and the NFL just started. So, this is a pretty exciting time, at least for football. We've got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to discuss. This is going to be great, right? So the next episode will probably come out this Saturday. We'll go through, pick every single game for the weekend, talk about whatever else is new in the world of sports, probably have some funner stuff going on next episode. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow the social medias of the podcast, of my Instagram, of my Twitter. I'm gonna start, tweeting. Twitter. This Twitter sports world is incredible. It's a hilarious and a fun place to be. So I'm gonna start being active on there. Um, Maybe make some sports TikToks, but TikTok is something that like I don't necessarily like, but I feel like I kind of got to do it. Um, but yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Share the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Rate the podcast, like it. Support is tremendously appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next episode.